The girl called Colt. The desert was a furnace of gold and dust, the kind that burned the past right out of a person, unless the past was already carved too deep. A lone rider thundered across the plain, hat low, duster snapping behind her like a tattered flag. To the world she was Colt Avery, a lean, hard-jawed drifter with a fast hand and faster temper. Only she knew the truth. Colt was no man. Beneath the sweat-stained shirt and gun belt was Eliza Vance, the daughter of a murdered rancher, out to kill the man who destroyed her family. 2 years ago, her father's ranch in Silver Mesa had burned to the ground. The sheriff called it an accident. Eliza knew better. She'd seen the mark branded into the barn door before the fire consumed it, a snake curled around a spur, the sign of Cassidy Boone, an infamous gunrunner who sold death across 3 territories. Her father had refused to help smuggle rifles. Boone made sure he'd never refuse again. Eliza buried her name with her family. She cut her hair, stole her brother's old Colt revolver, and learned to shoot from a bounty hunter who never asked questions. For months she hunted Boone's trail through ghost towns and gambling dens until she heard he'd taken a job guarding a payroll convoy through the Badwater canyons. That was where she'd find him. That was where she'd end it. Whiskey Creek. Whiskey Creek was the last patch of civilization before the canyons swallowed the world. Its single street baked under noon sun, lined with saloons and broken dreams. Eliza hitched her horse outside the Red Dust Saloon, dusted her hat, and walked in. Conversations died the moment she stepped through the doors. To them she was just another gunfighter, thin, quiet, dangerous. Perfect. She ordered whiskey and scanned the room. Card tables, smoke, laughter hiding desperation. Then she saw him, Cassidy Boone himself, older than she remembered, thick beard, eyes cold as creek ice. He sat with a handful of hired guns around a map. Her fingers brushed the revolver at her hip. She could end it here, one squeeze, one heartbeat. But something stopped her. A second man at Boone's table, tall, calm, the kind of man who carried danger like it was part of him. His badge caught the light. Marshal Reed Holloway, a lawman known for hunting killers on both sides of the border. And just like that, the trap changed shape. Boone was leaving town at dawn under Holloway's protection. If she shot Boone now, the marshal would shoot her before her disguise hit the floor. She needed another way. The hiring. Outside the saloon, Eliza leaned against a post, thinking. A voice drawled behind her. "You lookin' for work, kid?" It was Holloway. Up close, he was taller than she'd guessed, mid-30s, face tanned by the sun, eyes steady and unreadable. He nodded toward the convoy horses being loaded. "Need one more rider. Pays fair, leaves at sunrise. You any good with that iron on your hip?" She forced her voice rough. "I'm better than fair." He smiled slightly. "Then you're in." Just like that, vengeance found its path. She'd ride beside Boone until she had a clean shot, somewhere far from witnesses. The ride. The next day the convoy rolled out, 3 wagons of army payroll guarded by 6 riders. Dust rose behind them like smoke from hell. Boone rode up front, laughing with his men. Eliza stayed near the rear beside Holloway. He noticed how quiet she was. "You don't talk much, Colt. Don't see the need. Talk keeps a man human." She met his gaze beneath the brim of her hat. "Maybe I ain't human." That made him chuckle. "You remind me of myself 10 years ago. Thought silence could bury the things that hurt." His words cut deeper than he knew. Eliza turned away before emotion cracked her mask. Ambush in the canyon. By late afternoon, the convoy entered Badwater Canyon, a scar of red rock and shadow. The air grew still. Eliza's instincts screamed. A shot cracked the silence. Bullets tore into the lead wagon. Horses screamed. "Ambush!" Holloway shouted, diving for cover. Eliza drew faster than thought, dropping one bandit from the ridge. Dust exploded, lead sang, and Boone yelled orders. Within minutes the canyon became a furnace of gunfire. When the smoke cleared, for attackers lay dead, 2 wounded crawled off into the rocks. Holloway's arm was grazed, Boone unscathed, and staring at Alara. "Hell of a shot, kid," Boone said. "What's your name again?" "Colt Avery." "Well, Colt Avery, remind me never to cross you." She forced a smile while her pulse hammered. If only he knew. Campfire secrets. That night they camped near a dry riverbed. The fire cast orange light over faces hard with exhaustion. Holloway checked his wounded arm, then poured coffee. He handed her a tin cup. "Thanks," she muttered. "You saved our hides back there," he said. "You've got grit." "Grit's all I've got." He studied her. "You ever think about quittin' this life? There's more than guns and ghosts out there." She looked into the fire. "Not for me." Silence fell. Boone snored across the fire, oblivious. Holloway's voice softened. "You're young. Whatever you're running from, it'll find you if you don't turn around and face it." If he only knew how right he was. The blood mark. At dawn she found Boone alone, cleaning his rifle. His sleeve slipped, revealing a tattoo burned into his forearm, a snake curled around a spur. The same mark that had glowed on her father's barn before it burned. Her hands trembled on her revolver. She could end it now. "Something wrong, kid?" Boone asked. She hesitated. "Just itchin' to ride." "Good. We got miles to cover." The moment passed, slipping away like sand through her fingers. Revenge, she realized, was never as simple as a trigger pull, not when eyes like Holloway's were watching every move, full of trust she hadn't earned. The test. That evening a dust storm rolled across the plains. Visibility vanished. The wagons halted. Boone ordered them to make camp inside an abandoned way station. As night deepened, Alara slipped outside, intent on finishing what she'd started. She found Boone near the horses, counting gold. He looked up, startled, when she cocked the gun. "Easy, son," he said. "We can talk." "Talk's over," she hissed. Lightning flashed. Boone's eyes widened as he recognized something, perhaps the tremble in her voice, the tears she fought to hide. Before she could fire, a hand closed over her wrist. "Holloway!" "Put it down, Colt," he ordered. "He murdered my family," she shouted, voice breaking, too high, too raw. The disguise shattered in that single cry. Holloway froze. "You're a woman." Boone used the distraction to lunge. The gun went off. Fire erupted in the dark. The truth beneath the hat. The morning sun broke over the mesas like a bleeding wound. The sky burned with orange and gold, and a lonely wind whistled through the canyon. Elijah Kane woke first, stirred by the faint sound of boots pacing outside the camp. He found Eli Stone already awake, hat pulled low, coat tight, rifle resting across the knees. He watched in silence. Something about the way the boy moved, the hesitation in the hands, the gentleness, stirred a quiet suspicion in him. There was courage there, but also sorrow. He had seen that look before, in widows burying their dead. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, throwing another stick into the fire. Eli, or Eliza, didn't look up. "Dreams don't rest easy out here." Kane nodded slowly. "No, they don't. Especially when you carry ghosts." The words cut sharper than any blade. For a long while, neither spoke. The morning air was cool, and a hawk circled above the canyon ridge, crying into the empty sky. By noon they were on the trail again, riding side by side through a barren stretch of land called Widow's Bluff. The rocks were jagged, like bones of giants. A small dust storm brewed on the horizon, swirling in red and gold. Kane finally broke the silence. "You ever think about hanging up that gun, kid? You're quick, I'll give you that, but your eyes, they don't belong to a killer." Eliza's hands tightened on the reins. "Maybe I ain't got a choice." "There's always a choice," he said quietly. "Question is, what's worth dying for?" The question lingered. It echoed through her chest, through the place where her heart and hatred had lived side by side for so long. She wanted to tell him the truth. She wanted to scream, "I'm not who you think I am." But she had waited years for this. One wrong word could ruin everything. And yet, the more time she spent beside him, the more her anger began to melt, replaced by something she didn't understand. That evening, they reached a small frontier town, a place called Ash Hollow. Wooden shacks lined the dusty street. A broken church bell swung lazily in the wind. Kane stabled the horses and turned to Eli. "You got a name you're running from?" he asked, half a smile touching his weathered face. "'Cause you ride like someone with ghosts on your heels." Eliza forced a smirk. "Don't we all?" He laughed softly. "Fair enough." They found a room above the saloon, 2 small beds, 1 cracked window, and the faint hum of music rising from below. As night fell, thunder rolled in from the desert, and the rain began to fall, soft at first, then hard as stones. The sound filled the silence between them. Kane poured himself a glass of whiskey and sat near the window. "You ever lose someone, Eli?" She hesitated. Her throat tightened. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Me too. My brother. Years back. Some rich landowner's daughter claimed he stole her cattle. Sheriff shot him before the truth came out." Eliza froze. The room spun. Her heart pounded like a drum. "What was his name?" she asked, almost whispering. Kane looked up, his eyes shadowed. "Robert Kane. Good man. Died for nothing." Her world shattered. Robert Kane. The man her father had sworn was a murderer. The man whose death had started her family's ruin. And here she was, standing beside the brother she had sworn to kill. She couldn't breathe. The whiskey glass trembled in his hand, and she turned away, pulling her hat lower. Her disguise, the bandaged chest, the boyish stance, all felt suddenly meaningless. The man she had been hunting wasn't the monster she'd imagined. He was a broken soul, just like her. Rain pounded harder against the window. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Elijah, if you knew someone hated you for something you didn't do, what would you tell them?" He smiled faintly, unaware of the storm inside her. "I'd tell them to stop listening to ghosts and start listening to their heart." The words hit her like a bullet. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every lie she'd told, every glance he'd given her that wasn't filled with suspicion, but trust. She couldn't carry the weight anymore. At dawn, she took her gun and stepped outside. The rain had stopped, and the desert smelled of wet earth and sage. The rising sun painted everything gold. Kane followed quietly, his revolver resting on his hip. "Eli," he said, "you leavin'?" She turned to face him, and for the first time she took off her hat. The wind caught her hair as it fell loose down her shoulders. Her eyes met his, not as the gunfighter he'd known, but as herself. "My name," she said softly, "is Eliza Monroe." Kane froze. The world went still. She raised the gun, hands trembling. "I came to kill you, Elijah Kane. My father was George Monroe. He died because of your brother." Silence. Only the wind moved between them. Kane took a slow step forward. His voice was steady, quiet. "And you think killing me will bring him back?" Her voice broke. "I thought it would. But I don't even know anymore." He looked at her for a long moment, seeing not hatred, but pain. Then he holstered his revolver and stepped closer. "Then pull the trigger. But look me in the eyes when you do." Her hand shook violently. Her finger hovered over the trigger. The desert stretched endless around them, 2 souls caught between love and vengeance. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She dropped the gun. "I can't," she whispered. Kane stepped forward and caught her before she fell. His arms were warm, strong, steady. "You've got more courage than any man I've ever met," he murmured. "I lied to you," she sobbed. "I wanted to destroy you." He tilted her chin up. "Maybe you saved me instead." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain and freedom. The world seemed quieter now, the ghosts finally at rest. They stood there, two broken hearts finding a strange kind of peace in each other's arms. "Where will you go?" he asked softly. She smiled through tears. "Wherever the past can't follow." He nodded. "Then maybe I'll ride that way too." Together, they saddled their horses and rode toward the rising sun, two shadows fading into the golden light, leaving the ashes of their old lives behind. And somewhere in the endless desert, where the land met the sky, the legend of the Lady with the Iron Heart was born. A story whispered in saloons and sung by drifters. Of a woman who became a gunfighter to avenge her family, and instead found the one thing more dangerous than revenge: love.